Hi, my name is Ara. This is the Low Limit Poker Challenge. So today I was thinking of making a video because everyone always asks me when they find out I used to be a professional poker player that, I used to play in those big tournaments. Could they have seen me on TV? Did I used to play on TV? Am I a millionaire? Stuff like that. So I figured I would make a video talking about why I am not a millionaire and why I don't play for bigger stakes than I do. So right now I actually am happy having a regular job. I like the structure of it and I like the consistency of it. And I do make extra money on the side from poker, usually anywhere from 1-2 no limit to 5-10 no limit because the casino that I play at is a very short drive. But I do like to go to Encore in Boston and play 5-5 PLO when it runs. That's probably my favorite game to play is 5-5 PLO, and then as the game transitions and gets bigger, if you play for a long time, sometimes there's a straddle, sometimes a double straddle. That'd probably be my favorite game to play. So why haven't I played bigger and why haven't I played more TV tournaments? So there's a few reasons to that. I think first and foremost would be that I am not a world-class poker player. I'm a very good poker player, but I'm definitely not one of the best poker players in the world. So moving up in stakes has been a little bit of, I wouldn't say a struggle because I've been a winning player at every game I've played at, but it's been kind of mentally challenging for me at the higher stakes. And to give you an example of a difference, a couple nights ago I played 1-2. My two biggest hands of the night were what the other player would have considered a big bluff, and I raised it up to 40 or 50 big blinds. And they all thought I had a very strong hand, and I ended up winning the hand with a bluff. And so when you play a bigger game, like let's say 25-50 PLO, and you want to bluff for 40 big blinds or so, that's like $2,000. So, you really have to have a lot of balls to consistently bluff $2,000 when the situation is right, which I have done, but I definitely play more conservative when the stakes get higher. I remain a winning player, but I don't play the best way possible. I don't play my best poker. I play my most conservative winning poker when I play higher stakes like that. Another reason for not moving up is when I was mentally growing with poker, and this was probably about 10 years ago, when I took my first shot at 2-5 no limit. So I started playing, my first time ever playing at a casino was at Foxwoods. I played 1-2 no limit. It was probably 2006, I would guess. So me and my buddies, we used to look at the 2-5 game like it was huge. Maybe a year or two later, we played 2-5 for the first time. And, poker was really growing at this time. Moneymaker won, then Raymer won, then Joe Hashem won. So the fields in poker were getting bigger. Poker was always on TV. It was exciting to move up in stakes. So we played 2-5. We felt like it was a big game. First time I ever played 5-10. I remember the first big hand I was in. I had a top set of tens, and I got all in. I actually forget the outcome of the hand, which is funny. I remember who it was against because I've played with him 100 times since then. I actually saw him at Encore the other day. So I was in that mental mindset to move up to 2-5, to move up to 5-10. And one of the reasons why I struggled to move up past that was even though I was financially successful at 5-10 and I wanted to play for higher stakes, I wanted to play 10-25, and I did take a few shots at 10-25. But the problem was I didn't always choose to play in that game because sometimes my choices when I drive down to Foxwoods for the day was, all right, I can play a full ring game of 5-10 and probably win an average of $200 or $300 for the day on average. Or I can sit down at the 10 and a quarter game, which is four-handed or five-handed. They're re-raising much more frequently, so very often the first person's going to come in for 75, the next person's going to re-raise to 250-ish. And, it's going to be 250 to see a flop, so it's like significantly higher stakes than playing for 5-10. Not to mention, a lot of times when it's four-handed or five-handed, those 4 or 5 players are actually very good players. and I'm not sure that I had an edge on them at the time. So if I didn't think I had an edge on the table, normally I would not sit down. I didn't want to play with better players just to play with better players. My goal was always to make money. But eventually I did move up. I did play a lot of 10 and a quarter, some at Foxwoods. I ended up transitioning to Atlantic City for a while. I played some 10-20 no limit in Las Vegas. But yeah, I played a good amount in Atlantic City, and it did feel comfortable to me to play 10 and a quarter. I used to buy in for about $2,500 or $3,000, and at this time I used to take shots at the higher games. I did, like I said, I enjoyed playing PLO, so I would tend to play PLO when that was an option. But one thing that happened was over the course of about 6 months, I lost something like 13 or 14 out of 15 enormous hands. Like out of, I forget what it was, because this was like, 7-8 years ago. But what happened was, if I were to look back at the last few months and look at my 15 biggest hands, I lost like 13 or 14 of them. And I was almost always the favorite, because remember, I played conservative almost to a fault. I played like too conservative. So it was very common for me to get my money in with the best hand at the expense of dwindling away and losing a lot of small pots a lot of way. So I'm not saying it's not the most profitable way, but I was getting my money in the big pots with the best hand, the huge, enormous $5,000, $6,000 pots. And I ended up losing like 13 out of 15 of those big pots. And it was just so ridiculous to me. And I know you get unlucky in poker, but it was very hard to move up when I would play, 5-10 for $1,000. I'd play 5-5 PLO for $1,000 or $1,500. That was my normal buy-in, $1,500 on 5-5 PLO. And then I would get in these enormous pots on 10 and a quarter. Sometimes I'd take a shot at a bigger game, 25-50 PLO. And, I'd get my money in as either a small favorite or a big favorite. And I lost like 13 out of 15 of those. And I'm not complaining about being unlucky, because that's what happens in poker, but it's just very financially hard to justify moving up in stakes when you move up to the bigger game and then you lose these enormous pots. It's just a financial struggle. So, I could afford it, but, mentally it's a financial struggle to, always lose these $5,000 pots. So that definitely slowed my progress of moving up to 10 and a quarter and 25-50. When I played in Atlantic City, this was back in maybe 2013, 2014, I was a semi-regular at 10-25 PLO and 25-50 PLO at the Borgata. That went relatively good, but normally I would have a backer for approximately 50% of my action, sometimes 40%, sometimes 50%, sometimes 10%. Depends on what we agreed on that day. But normally if I was to buy into a game for $5,000, I'd have my buddy take at least $2,000 of my action, sometimes $2,500 of the action. It was actually percentage, because, I might be in for multiple buy-ins. Normally I was in for one buy-in, so normally it was either 40% or 50% of my action. And I did relatively well, but I didn't necessarily make more than people make at a regular job. I didn't always play long hours at the higher stakes games. I didn't always play my A game. I played as alert as I possibly could and as good as I possibly could in a super conservative way, but I didn't necessarily play my A game at the bigger game, which who knows if it was a good or a bad thing. Maybe if I were to play what's my A game at a 5-5 PLO table, maybe that wouldn't translate well to playing 25-50 PLO. Maybe I would have just got crushed and had to quit poker. So I'm not saying that I regret my decision to play super conservative at the 25-50 game, but I don't think it was the most profitable way to play. And while over the course of a summer I might have made $20,000 or $30,000, there were other people that made $200,000 or $300,000. I know one guy made $500,000 over the course of one summer that I was playing there. So I would try to jump at the games, but I definitely went with a conservative mindset. And even though I was profitable, I wasn't like extremely profitable. And I probably would have done just as well if I played regular old 2-5 no limit instead of every other game that I was jumping into. So I did play enough, and I did make enough to live on. But when I ended up finding out I had a daughter in 2015, my poker hours did not work with my dad hours. And even though poker was going well, mostly I was playing at Foxwoods at this time in 2015, 2016. It was, it was something that I knew I couldn't play professional poker forever. I was pretty happy playing 5-10 no limit at Foxwoods, and that's enough money to be a very successful financial person in life, playing 5-10. But I wasn't able to justify really becoming a pro and moving up to the higher stakes, like going to Vegas, going to Florida, and doing that because I had a dad and because I wasn't 100% sure that I was going to be successful. And I knew I was pretty successful playing 5-10 at Foxwoods. So, the players aren't like, this is not always like a table full of professionals when you're playing at a 5-10 game. So usually it's pretty easy. But yeah, once I had a daughter, I knew that I had to get a job and kind of search for something else in life. Mostly because of the hours, and I couldn't play the way that I wanted to play. I couldn't show up at 10 p.m. when everyone's playing crazy and play till 7 a.m. anymore. So I had to kind of downgrade it. But now that I am starting to make these poker videos again in the last year, now that me and Ray are playing a lot together, we're playing at Twin River 75% of the time probably, and we play at Encore on Sundays. We are probably going to start playing the higher stakes again. I think we're both happy playing a 5-5 PLO game. I usually buy in for $1,500. He buys in for $1,000, sometimes like $800. He likes to play a little shorter stack. That's just his style. So we are getting into the higher stakes, and when the opportunity arises to play a juicy, bigger game, I'll definitely be jumping in. I'll definitely be jumping into the 10-20 or 10-25 no limit games, the 10-10 PLO games. I do find those fun. September 1st, I'm moving into a new apartment. I'm spending a lot more money on this apartment. So I just want to make sure financially I'm okay with it. I'm pretty sure I am. But, I'm not in a rush to jump into the higher stakes games again because I don't consider poker my job anymore. So last time I played, actually, like I said, I played 1-2 no limit. A seat opened up at 2-5, and I was like perfectly okay playing 1-2. It didn't matter to me. The time before I was playing 1-2 no limit, then nobody wanted to be the first couple people to sit down for 5-10. So I got the game started, got the 5-10 game started at Twin River. And like playing 1-2 or 5-10 or something in that range of $300 to $1,000. That's perfectly okay for me right now. I don't consider poker my job. And any money that I win, I do consider it extra. Hopefully the goal is I can completely pay my rent plus some with poker money, and all the money that I make from my job is extra for other stuff, for saving up, for spending, for for giving to my daughter and doing dad type of stuff with. So that's the goal, to kind of pay my main bills with my poker money and all the money that I make at Honda Seekonk. If anyone needs to buy a car, Herb Chambers, Honda Seekonk, ask for Ara. So I'm there most days except for Thursdays. But yeah, that's my goal now. So my goal is to be a winning poker player, someone that really enjoys the game when he's there. But I want the majority of my income and the majority of my hours to be spent at Honda, because I do enjoy having a regular job and having poker as a side gig. So thanks for watching, and every time I make one of these videos, I get 10 or 12 people messaging me or texting me, but then I look at the video a week later and I only have 3 likes. So those 10 people or 12 people that are messaging me and texting me, make sure to give me a like on the YouTube video. And if you're new to this, please subscribe. It motivates me to make more videos in the future. Thanks for watching. Bye, guys.